about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause the stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause the stream is about to start. Hi, I'm Leonard Falconetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is probably to have a full working effect using this visualization right here. Before we get to that, hello Fotis. Welcome. I hope you enjoy your stay. So, what's up with this? Well, we have the component. It is mostly working. It is performant. Look at the CPU use, it's in shape. And now the plan is that we are going to turn this component that is just, it works, but of course you can tell that the labels are not really great. And that's because I have to make things perhaps bigger, or perhaps the gaps need to be smaller, or the gaps needs to be bigger so that we can show the whole label. So the thing is working. Now let's turn this into something that you can actually use. The component is just the library support for this. Now let's use the library to do an effect. And the effect is going to be similar to the inline input viewer, except that you will have a lot more control over the visualization. You'll have different axes and whatnot. It will be great. We actually started this already, so we will look at the code that we wrote before and start adapting to this new version of the waveform display. And the intent of this plugin that we are building, and of this one that of course inspired the one that we are building, is for it to be here on the mixer control panel, or perhaps on the track control panel, but I tend to like the mixer control panel better. And what it will do is show the waveform as it's scrolling across. That's what we want to do with our component. And the advantage of our component over this one is that you have more control over stuff. You will be able to do horizontal lines versus vertical lines. You'll be able to take the square root of the samples. You'll be able to show a grid, perhaps even control the colors. Who knows? So let's dive into the code. This is the thing that we were looking at. It's the demonstration of the waveform display. This is the implementation of the library for the waveform display. We will keep this around because most probably we will run into something that the library cannot do yet that we need. So I'll keep that around. And I will also open I think it is this one and that one as well. And let's see what we still have here and see if we care about any of this. So this is the demonstration for an older version of the waveform display, as you can tell here by the new on the name. So this is an older version. I think that we will not need a lot of what's here, but let's just take a look. Oh, so I already see something that I will want from here. Let's take a look, and then we'll take a look at this, which is our previous attempt at doing what I'm proposing to do today. Right, so let's go over this first. The demonstration for an older version of the waveform display, lift whatever is still useful. We do have the notion of X, Y, width, and height on the new one. Then whether to square root is something that we already have. But then whether to have rectified peaks and to scroll and to erase on wrap, these are things that the library doesn't support. So I'll leave this as a to-do here on the library. Now, for perhaps the initial version, I will not implement these things because I think that, first of all, it's already an improvement over the inline input viewer. Just the thing that we have without these extra options. And also, I don't think I will have them as defaults anyway, because I don't really like these versions, the rectified peaks, and the version that does not scroll, and the version that reads on wrap. That one in particular, I really dislike. So perhaps we will not even have that at all. Just keep that there for future reference. Then this is something that we already do on the new version. We allocate some waveforms, but we are not allocating waveforms in a loop as I think we should. So I'm going to lift this code here because we could, and that could be really cool, we could show the waveform of more than 2 channels. We could show the waveform of as many channels as you have on the track. And that's already something that I don't think this one supports. And I'm not trying to be too negative about this one because I love it. It inspired the effect that I'm building right now. But I don't think it supports multi-channel. And we could support multi-channel. Let me double check that I'm not misrepresenting this. Yeah, it's only looking at left and right. It's not looking at multi-channel. So I am going to bring this over, and this will allow us to draw as many channels as you need, but we did change the way that you create a waveform display. So right now, we are passing 3 parameters. We only need to pass 1 parameter, and that's the number of lines that make up a waveform. And I believe that we should get this value from here. So 256. So let's say that we'll have 500, okay, as a buffer, okay, as a, hang on, do I need to add a buffer or do we already add a buffer here? We already add a buffer, so I don't need to worry about this. But I'll keep 500. It's a safe number. It's just a tiny bit more memory. So that's good. Now on the serialized block, on the slider block, there is this bit to hide some sliders. I already have a plan for what the sliders are going to do, so I'll leave that out. Then the serialized block is supposed to be exactly the same, and it is. Then the block is something that I don't have here, or perhaps I do have here. Okay, so just keep that. But on the sample block, there is something that's different. In fact, I would probably want something more like this. And the API didn't change all that much for the push function, so this just works. Except that we will have to check. Hopefully this will work. But now we are doing something that we were not doing before. And that is we are stopping the collection of samples in case the plugin is not showing anything. So right now, as it stands, it will not work. Okay. As it stood a couple minutes ago when I started the stream, you can rewind to see this with your own eyes. The plugin was taking 0.1% CPU. But if you are not showing the plugin, it should be taking 0% CPU. It should not be doing any work at all. And that's what this guarantees. This conditional guarantees that that will happen. Now, there is one slight change that I want to make to this, and that is in the style of this loop. So far, up to like 2 sessions ago, I was trying to mimic a for loop in C, C++, JavaScript, Java, and many languages. I was trying to sort of mimic that, but I decided to stop that attempt. So some things are going to change, and I'm going to explain why I'm doing this. First, because in many cases, you will not only want one variable in the loop, you will want to have multiple control variables, so perhaps channel and X and Y position or whatever. So it doesn't really make sense to have one control variable. You may want to have multiple. And then you would have multiple lines here, and that could be annoying. Or not multiple lines, but multiple statements. That sort of thing. So that's annoying. And then you would end up breaking this in multiple lines anyway, sort of defeating the purpose of having everything in a single line. And also, you have to be smart and set this to -1 because this one is going to do a +1. So in languages like C and C++ and JavaScript and whatnot, you have your initialization and you have your conditions. So I guess channel less than number of channels. And then this is the crucial part. This only runs after one iteration of the loop. But in this case, this runs before an iteration of the loop. So instead of doing 0, you have to do -1 because this is adding 1. And if your step is not even 1, if your step is something like plus equals 10, then you have to be smart and initialize this to -10. And I don't like this effect at a distance. So instead, I am now using this other style, which I guess is more common anyway, which is to just initialize the variable to what you want to initialize the variable, and then have the update of the loop variables at the end. This is sort of similar to what we already do in these functions on the library, where we do some initialization, the body of the work, and then some, I guess, finalization. We just end stuff by doing some stuff at the end. Here, same story. We end a loop doing some stuff at the end, namely, we update the loop variables. And this way it's clearer where things are starting, what's the step, what's the length of the loop. The only issue is that this update code can be far apart from this if the body of the loop is long. But I guess we just have to train ourselves to read code like this by jumping from beginning to end to see what variables are updated. And when reading loops, we have to get used to jumping to the end to see how the variables update. Same story. And I don't think there is any convenient way of bringing this up to improve the locality of the code. So I think it's just the way things go. So I'm using this style now, which means that I will change that to be like this. Okay. Then in the GFX block, I think that I had these numbers set to anything. I think that these numbers are not significant, so I am not going to keep them, and we already have a call to the GFX block. Then the background color, I am not setting here, but I think I should be getting it from here. Then this is drawing one waveform. We already have code for that, and the frames per second component. And then this is something that I think we have over here. Yeah, we are handling that. But here we have more stuff. We have padding. Yeah, we don't have that here. I think I will just recreate this as needed. So with that, we ended this file. Now let's look at this one. We have a bunch of to-dos. So to recap, this is the file that started this MCP situation. We tried to do a mixer control panel component before. The library didn't hold up. The library kind of started falling apart because of the strategy we were using to do the waveform display. So I got rid of that implementation of the library. So this is going to be using an older version of the library, but it's going to have more of the logic we want for the plugin. So let's go over this and see what we can leverage. Because the description of the plugin can stay. Then these to-dos. The glitch when there are two waveforms being displayed, we did it. Zoom, in terms of dB, I think we have that here. Yep. The duration, that we definitely have. So we can get rid of that and zoom. We have a grid. Spectral peaks are going to be difficult. Vertical mode we implemented, and I still have to do this. I have to look at what the Harrison mix bus is doing, because they apparently have a similar component to the one I'm developing. Then, oh, this is a nice slider. I think I will want that. So that's the number of channels that we are actually displaying. And this is something that the inline input viewer does right. I really like how it does that. You can click and then you see only one channel, or you can see two channels. So it is only supporting up to two channels, but at least you can see just one if you want. Then the duration we have, the zoom, we don't currently have that implemented. All of these we already put on the to-do list. Whether to show or hide the grid would be important, and it's just a slider. It doesn't really do anything. But yeah, I will have here something to show or hide the grid, or I'll have this. I'll have this slider, and also colors, perhaps. Okay, so this stuff is the same. The number of channels, okay, I'll take that. Has to do with this. And this can go, that can go. Yeah, and these numbers I think we got from the design system. So these numbers I will want to keep. Then this I want to keep. That's the color of the background that I actually want to use. These instructions, I'm not sure I'm gonna keep them, but I, for now, will bring them over. Oh, and we have this variable. This is key. Yeah, I still have that one. So this is key. I want to change the drawing based on whether I am in the TCP. And I think that the indentation should be like this. Yeah, I don't think I need to keep most of this. So we can delete that file and rename this one. And now there's only one waveform. Great. Except that it doesn't really work. So let's go from the top, fixing this guy. And now we brought everything we wanted from all the previous versions into this guy, single place. Great. Let's put the sliders in order. What slides do we want? What sliders do we want? And in what order? Perhaps the number of channels that you want to see may be the most important aspect of this. So I'm going to start with this slider. And I'm calling it the channels slider. That's going to determine the number of channels. Yeah, okay, I'll take it. And by default, it will be mono. I think that's a useful default. So I will need a slider block in which I have this. And then let's review the line. The number of channels that I want to draw is the minimum between the number of channels and oh, I need to initialize this channels all, and that's a position 0 here. Okay, that seems good. Then the X and Y width and height, I don't think we should set. I think that we should compute. I think that we should just occupy the whole space. So the number of channels is going to be the first official slider. Then I guess I will do the duration. And that will be the second slider. The duration in milliseconds. And I'm not sure that 5 seconds is a good default. I think that the range is okay. We'll play around with this. And perhaps a step of 100 milliseconds is too coarse. Let's do 10 milliseconds. Or, no, maybe 100 milliseconds is okay. We'll see. We'll play around with this. Then whether to show the grid. That can be slider 3. Oh, and I will take note of something here that I think we should change. I think that we should draw the grid on top of the waveform. Right now we are drawing the grid below, but then the waveform covers the grid in some places, which is not particularly nice. So I will add this right here, because why not? Draw grid on top of, not below the waveform. I will add... I'll leave this here because I may add sliders for the color. Okay. I think I will leave this square root even before the grid stuff because it has to do with the drawing of the waveform itself. So yeah, I'll leave this here as slider 3, square root. It's either off, on, or on, and by default it's off. And then we can do the grid stuff. By default it will be showing the grid. That can be slider 4. And then the grid main gap is something that we may let the user tune, but I think we'll just find a value that works. Yeah, I think I would just find a value that works because we sort of know that's the space that we have. So similar to how we don't give X, Y, width, and height to the user, I will not give the grid gaps to the user. And then colors, yeah. I want to give the user colors, but they are annoying to define because they will be a drop-down menu and you'll have many options. So I'll leave this as a to-do. And I guess I will leave this here. Give user the choice of colors. All right, so we have number of channels, the duration in milliseconds, the square root, whether to square root, and whether to show the grid. And I don't think I'll have the question mark. Square root, on and or off, grid, on or off. Looks good. This can go. This looks good. Look good. Looking good. Looking good. And similar to how we don't collect samples when the effect isn't showing, we shouldn't be drawing new stuff when the effect is bypassed. Or perhaps not. I don't know. I'll get back to that in a moment. I will be right back. I'll be a couple minutes out actually, but I will be back. Be back. You stay there. Okay, I'm back. So I was reasoning about this situation here. I am saving the work of pushing samples into the waveform display when the user interface is not showing. I think it stands to reason that I should not be showing the waveform display if the effect is bypassed, so if the sample block isn't running. And That's something that I'm not doing right now. I used to be doing that, but I'm not doing it right now on this version. So I need to... Thank you. By the way, I just bought a new microphone. Do you think I sound different? Do I sound okay? Because the microphone is new, so I had to revise my whole vocal chain, bunch of effects, lots of fun, great way to spend an afternoon. Just a couple minutes or perhaps half an hour in an afternoon, but still, always fun stuff. But yeah, I have a new microphone. Does it sound good? How do you like it? I think it's less muddy and boxy now with this microphone. Let me know what you think. Okay, so I shouldn't draw. Don't draw when the effect is bypassed, not receiving samples. Yeah, you sound okay. You're just a bit low on volume. Could you give it 1 or 2 dB? Otherwise, sounds great. Yeah, hang on. I was working on the vocal chain and everything, and I thought, well, I think I used to do like minus 18 dB. I think I used to do like minus 17 dB LUFS. Or not dB LUFS, minus 17 LUFS. Minus 17 LUFS. And now I decided to go for like minus 18 or minus, what was it? Minus 18 or minus 19, something like that. So yeah, it's a few dB less than it used to. So I guess I'm giving myself a couple more dB, just in case. Yeah, it should be better now. Let me know. Am I hitting the compressors too much? Is the compressor working too much now? I don't think it is. The compressors are fine. Yeah, these compressors are the ones that are doing the bulk of the compression. They're doing like 1 dB or 2 dB, shaving off very little. Okay, I think I like that. Does it sound better? Awesome, thanks. Refining this vocal chain is both my obsession as well as a hobby, but mostly an obsession. It's not healthy, I'll tell you. Okay, so the sample block seems to be okay. Now let's move on to this one. And I think what I want to do to begin with is take this out. Yes, the thing that is actually drawing the waveforms. I'm taking it out. And I should just see the instructions, but only when the effect is not on the MCP. But at least it should load and not fail and fall on its face or whatnot. Okay, when it is here, it is showing the instructions. When I put it on the MCP, it is not showing instructions. Great. And then the sliders all make sense to me. Let's see. All right. And then let's actually read the instructions. Click on the plus on the REAPER interface above to enable either show embedded in UI, blah, 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 blah. Customize the display with the sliders above. Save as an effects chain. Yeah, that makes sense. And let's commit what we have, because we did a whole lot and we did a whole lot. I feel like we need to commit. Right, so what we need is to have a little space where we draw, and then I will take care of the MCP stuff. What is the size of the MCP? I don't think I can count on this a whole lot, on measuring this here, because it can be bigger, especially on the TCP, which I should test as well. I always forget to. So I think that I should be probably not relying on this too much, but let's just have an idea of how big this is. It's around 100 pixels. So I think I will do the following. I will draw I will draw a rounded rectangle fill. And the intent is that when you are here, you are playing around with the sliders and everything, it should show you a preview of what it will look like over here. So I'm drawing now the little canvas that will be that preview. And I want that to be at space, let's say 24. And on the vertical axis, I probably want a bigger number, so I'll go with 52, we'll see. Then for the width and height, that's where we use that number we just measured. It's around 100 pixels. I suppose that around 100 pixels will be somewhat like this, like 24, we'll see. I will do a medium, or maybe I shouldn't be doing a rounded corners rectangle because the actual one doesn't have rounded corners. Yeah, I will not do rounded corners. I'll just GFX rect with these coordinates, and I do have to set the color. It will be let's say 600. Okay, it is too low. It could go more to the right. The size seems okay. Yeah. So more to the right, we'll do 40. And less than 52, so perhaps 40 again. Still more to the top, I'll go with 32. And this is looking respectable. I like the way that this looks, so it's clear that this will be what you see there. Great. We didn't do much, but I will commit anyway. Next. Let's actually draw some waveforms in there. So I will want to do a loop to draw all the channels, and I will want to know whether I am on vertical mode or not. And I don't have a slider for this, so let's add one. The number of channels, the duration, square root, and then slider 4 will be vertical. By default, it will be horizontal. I prefer horizontal lines. That's what you see on the REAPER timeline. So by default, it will be horizontal. And you have the option of doing vertical. And as for the slider label, I don't actually need a label. I could do something like orientation, but I think that the labels are pretty self-explanatory, so I will use a trick here. If I just do space, it will not show the slider. If I just leave this alone, it will not show the slider. But if I put a non-blanking space, a non-breaking space by holding Option and hitting the space bar, you can see that Visual Studio Code is highlighting this differently. That's because it's a space that's special. You cannot break a line in this space. And Reaper will just show this as a drop-down menu without a label. All right. So I know I will need a loop. And I know that the loop will be over the number of channels. So let's draw a waveform, and this is what we need to draw a waveform. What waveform do we want to draw? Well, we need to have a notion of the channel that we are at. But hang on, this channel could conflict with this one. One is on the sample section, one is on the GFX section. I cannot have variable names that clash. So I will have a GFX channel. So what is the waveform that I want to draw? The one for that channel. Then the X and Y position, the width and the height, the duration in milliseconds, all of that is parameterizable. So let's go over all of this. I'll leave the coordinates for last because they're going to be the most difficult. I think that this comes straight from a slider. Then square root comes straight from a slider. The next parameter is whether it's vertical. That comes straight from a slider. Then the colors, right now, I will not use red and blue, but I will not parameterize that. So I will have color. Let's do this in gray warm. I'll do 50. That's the brightest gray that we have, except for white, but white isn't really gray, is it? Then the gaps I will need to compute, and I will actually need to look at whether you are showing the grid. So if the grid is showing, then something. Otherwise, I guess undefined. And then in here, I will need to check if the gap is undefined. Don't draw the grid. And what's the color of the grid? It's probably something more dimmed. So the background is 600, so 500 should do, and an opacity of, let's do 50%. We'll see how that will look. Okay, now let's get to the coordinates. Oh, and we also have to take care of this. So for now, I will leave this as a space of 20. Let's do the coordinates. This depends on whether I'm in vertical mode or not. I will need to initialize X, Y, width, and height. And the X and Y coordinates will need to be relative to the position of this box when I am in this mode. So, oh, and I will get into the habit of prefixing all of this with gfx dot. Not that I have X and Y and width and height on the sample block, but it will pay off to prefix and namespace all the gfx variables. So these are not gfx variables, they are sliders. Yeah, so that will do. Now, the X and Y coordinates will depend on the coordinate of this rectangle. So I guess I need to extract a variable for that. And that is, I guess I will call this the gfx X and Y. And that one will be the gfx waveform X and Y. All right, and I actually need to check if I am embedded. So I will do this. If I am embedded, then these guys will be zeros. If I am not embedded, these guys will be dash. If I am not embedded, I will print this. Do I want to check twice? Perhaps. Perhaps I'll just check twice, because then it reads better this way. And who will care about one more conditional, right? They are redundant, but who cares? And then this, I only want to draw if I am embedded. Or if I'm not embedded, actually. Yeah, this is getting out of hand. I'm checking for the TCP stuff too much. I will refactor this if you bear with me for a moment. So if I am embedded in the MCP, these are the coordinates, and that's all I need. If I'm not embedded, then these are the coordinates. And I should print this. Oh, I want to indent that and that, but not more. I don't want to indent these lines. Also, I will draw this rectangle. Okay. So I think that the only thing left to do is to compute these guys and we'll be good. And I guess the high level thing that I'm learning here in general is that it always is necessary and it always pays off to compute the coordinate of the whole component and then the coordinate relative to the component. never compute the absolute position of the waveform within the component. Just compute it based on this point. In other words, this is that point, and that is the position of the waveform within this component. It always pays off to break this into steps and compute these two steps separately. I'm saying that because it also turned out to be relevant in the drawing of the grid, because the labels would be relative to the grid and whatnot. So yeah, makes sense to have that sort of component thing. Right, so let's think about the horizontal case first, because I like it better. In that case, the x-coordinate of the waveform will be 0. The width of the component will be the width of, I guess, the whole component. So we will need a GFX width and height. And in case I am in the TCP, that's the whole width of the display and the whole height of the display. Otherwise, it is the width and height of this rectangle. Hang on, this doesn't seem right. I think I got this reversed. I sure did. So it's 40 here, and it's 32 there. Now it's better. X, Y, width, and height. And naturally, these will need to be renamed to be the waveform width and height. And then I will be able to say that the width of the whole thing will be the width of the component. So that. And the height will be, well, I guess we need some sort of padding, perhaps, or maybe just a line. I think we'll just draw a line there and not have any sort of padding. So the height will be the height of the component divided by the number of channels. And Y will start at 0 as well. I guess this is true of the other one too. On the vertical mode, it will also start at the top. So I guess I will extract this. And this will be different because it's the width of the component divided by the number of channels. Looking good. Then at the end here, we will update the number of the channel, but we'll also update a bunch of things. So I will do something like this. And I will update X and Y. I guess I will only update one of the two. So I guess I'm updating when I'm drawing vertical, I'm updating X. When I'm horizontal, I'm updating Y. And I will update X by the width. Update Y by the height. Let's take a look. What's the worst that can happen? A syntax error, that's it. Line 60. Second try. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? This is the worst that can happen. No, this is even worse. Okay, let's commit what we have and then we'll investigate why this is blowing up. Is the vertical thing working here? Yes, it is. I'm not sure I like this. Oh, check this out. Something else happened. I'm not sure I like the lack of a label here because then it may seem like the square root is related to this. So I guess I will, after all, have orientation here. But yeah, let's review the code. Ouch, did you just destroy the GUI? Apparently so. But we'll review the code. I bet that the mistake is just 1 or 2 lines. Fingers crossed. Let's review the code. The sliders always need to have different numbers, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then, okay, let's go this step by step. So channels all is a constant, that is this, it is 0. That's okay. Then the number of waveforms that we want to have is a chunk of memory that we are allocating. It starts with the channel 0, add 1, loop for the number of channels. Even if you don't want to display all the channels, I will loop over all of them when allocating. I will not loop over all of them when pushing. That I can save. Yeah, and we only have 3 loops, 1 to initialize, 1 to push samples, 1 to draw. And this is the only one that needs the number of channels. This can have this variable, which is not always necessarily the number of channels. It's the number of channels that you want to draw, which is not the same. Then I allocate a waveform. All that's good. Then on the slider block, take the minimum between the number of channels, and if you want to draw all the channels, the number of channels, otherwise, how many channels you have. So this is so if you want to, you can say like you want to draw 10 channels, but if your track doesn't have 10 channels, it will only draw the number of channels in the track. That's what this is doing, this minimum thing. Then this is just boilerplate, this may be the culprit, because this stuff is finicky. We'll see. We'll investigate if this is to blame. Just loop over all the channels and push into the waveforms. Channel, sample, channel. Okay, that looks good. Oh, waveforms. Check this out. This was the mistake I declare. And it was 1 line. And there we have it. It's not showing anything, but at least it's not blowing up. It seems like I want a bit more space here. The coordinates are wrong. And probably this is my copy and paste mistake. And I think that this, yeah, I think I just swapped them. That's what I did. Yep. Another try. Okay, now it is a square and it's looking good. That's better. If I have multiple channels, great. Oh, hang on. Is it registering something? It seems like it is registering something. Oh, glitching out. It's gonna blow up. Look at it. It's gonna blow up soon. It's gonna blow up. Oh, let's put this on the MCP. Let's see it blow up there. Oh, cool. Glitchy art. Oh well. Okay, this seems good. That is okay. That's okay. If I am embedded in the TCP MCP, then this is my position and my width and height. Seems good. Otherwise, I set these values. Yeah. Then print the instructions and draw a rectangle. All that is working. Then yeah, these are the things that I update, and I have them here. Okay. If I'm drawing vertically, I take the width and divide by the number of channels. Looking good. Looking good. I update that there. Oh, I should be looking at GFX channel. Okay. Probably caught the other mistake right there. I was not looking at the channel correctly. Okay, we have a waveform display. Check this out. Now, for two channels, they are essentially the same, but here they are. And now on the MCP, there it is, looking good. Now on the TCP, because I tend not to use that, but let's test it. Yeah, and on the TCP, it may be large. Maybe really large. Yeah, I guess this is the largest it can be. So yeah, in that case, 300 is not enough. This can be freaking large. Yeah, let's do a bigger number. So the glitch that you see happening here is because we are trying to draw more than we have on memory. We need to increase this number by a whole lot. I think we'll do 5,000. I think I will do 10,000 for an HK display to be accommodated. And now it's not glitching in that weird way. And oh my God, this looks amazing. I love it. With the grid and everything, mwah, looks so professional. Amazing stuff. And I just want the space to be so that we get half a second, and this looks like perfect. All right, Bo is here. Hello, Bo. It's great to have you here. Yeah, we are well. I think we are, at least I am well. I hope that Fadis is well too. It's great to see you. I hope you were better, because I remember that last time, it was Wednesday, last week, you were under the weather, so I hope you're better. Hope you're better, Bo. Looks great. Oh, I probably am on top of the chat. Yeah, looks great. Thanks. And thanks for joining me on this ride. It has been a hell of a ride. So let's play around with the parameters real quick. If we have two channels, that works. And if we want it to be faster, does that look good? Yeah, I guess. If we want to take the square root, then everything will be larger. If I want to go to vertical mode, then that works too. And if I want to turn off the grid, then it sort of works by accident. It's a happy accident that this works, but it works. And I can explain the happy accident and whatnot, but I guess I would just remember to leave a to-do. Disable grid on undefined. The happy accident is that undefined. Oh, I was gonna say that undefined was a large value, but I don't think it is a large value, is it? Yes, it is a large value. So undefined is a large value, which means that we will try to draw grid lines with a big gap. By accident, that happens, but that works. But we should be not trying to draw when you haven't defined a gap. Right, okay, let's look at this on the mixer control panel, because that's my real use case here. That's the one that I care about the most. Let's see what that looks like, and it looks perfect. I probably will go for perhaps 1 second. Will be fine. And yeah, I believe that this is better than the inline input viewer that comes with Repack. Yeah, I think that this is good. Perhaps for voice squaring, square root would be good. Yeah, awesome. All right, so. Oh no. What happened? Yeah, I want to hear more about this, but I do have to leave now. So perhaps I can check again with you tomorrow. I mean, the plan is to have the meeting for the study group tomorrow, right? Fochis, what do you think about this? Do you think that we are meeting tomorrow? I think we are. Perhaps we will meet on Wednesday. But yeah, let me know. And Bo, we can talk to us and decide if you can join us or not, and tell us what's happening on the Discord server, because I do have to leave now. So yeah, thank you, Bo and Fotis, for being here on the chat. Thank you everyone else who is watching, everyone else who supports the channel on Patreon, PayPal. Oh, you suggested yes, Wednesday? Okay, so we can meet on Wednesday. I am fine with that. Yeah, okay, so we'll meet on Wednesday. So tomorrow I will be back here and we'll continue pushing forward on this guy, because there's still more stuff to do. We have to do everywhere, actually. We have probably some to-dos left over here. We want to disable the grid properly, do the drawing in the right order, have colors, don't draw. Yeah, we'll do this tomorrow, and we'll meet for the study group on Wednesday, which gives me more time to study. So I like that. And I see you all tomorrow for more of this. Thanks for being here. Bye. Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.